Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to... I'm not sure what to call this video. I'm going to talk about the sort of state of Destiny 2 right now. Because, I don't know, every Destiny YouTuber seems to be doing it, so I thought, well, maybe I should too. Destiny 2, I don't have any actual super official information on this. This is just sort of what I've heard in the community. But from what I can tell, it seems like just before the newest season launched earlier this week, that Destiny 2 has been at the lowest player numbers on Steam that it has hit. I'm not sure if ever or just in a while or what, but the player numbers were very low. Part of the reason for that, I think, is the seasonal model has become so predictable, and players basically know what to expect before the new season even launches. You know, obviously the theme changes from season to season, and some seasons like this one we get a new dungeon, which is cool. I am going to talk about the new dungeon later. I have cleared it, so I'll give a spoiler warning before I do that. But the part of the problem is that the seasonal model has become so predictable that players just end up tuning out. Now, on one hand, you could argue, I'm going to try and argue this from both sides of the argument here. You could argue, so from the player's perspective, having an overly predictable seasonal model makes things boring. It makes the game boring. Now, for the record, Bungie has said, or someone at Bungie or something has said, that they are aware that the seasonal model is boring, and they are going to fix it. Or at least they're going to try new things. The problem is, their dev cycle is ahead of the live game. And that makes sense because, you know, they have to have things ready months before it goes to the live game. But as a player, you don't really want to hear, well, we hear you have a problem with the game, or we're working on it, and we'll get to it in 6 to 8 months. So just deal with that problem for 6 to 8 months, and then we'll fix it. On the other hand, on Bungie's end, you know, they're trying to develop Lightfall. I'm sure development work on Lightfall is probably well and truly done at this point, but they're developing, you know, major expansions, new seasons, stuff like that, way ahead of time, so that they're not on crunch time constantly trying to develop new things for the game. Now, the overly predictable seasonal model, it shouldn't have... So from the player's perspective, this shouldn't have gotten this bad. You know, Bungie should have preemptively innovated to prevent things from getting this bad. On the other side of that coin, from Bungie's perspective, it's probably, at least, I don't know, it's probably a smart decision business-wise to have your players know what to expect before they spend money on their season. You know, if a player is getting ready to buy a season and can go, okay, well, I'm going to get this content, and this content, that probably helps make an informed decision. On top of, like I said, they're working way ahead of the player. What we experience as a player is probably at least almost last year's version of Destiny as far as development. I don't actually know if that's true. That's just for hypothetical sake. My point is the internal build of the game or whatever at Bungie is probably way, way ahead of the player version of the game. Because it has to be. Now, there are some marketing things and some slideshows and things out there. I'm not going to cover those because I don't know enough about them. I've seen them. I know they exist. I've seen the points made in them, but I'm not going to cover them because I don't have... I don't run a multi-million-dollar company, so I don't know enough about it. Whatever Bungie is doing from their end seems to be working as far as the player knows. You know, they're making money as far as we know, and them making money allows them to continue to make the game that we all play. This is kind of this goes back to the old argument of Eververse. These things should just be ornaments that you can earn in the game. Well, yes, while I agree and would like, of course, to have more ornaments and things that can be earned through gameplay, at the same time, if Bungie's selling things through Eververse that players have no reason to buy other than because they want to, because those things are purely cosmetic in nature, allows them to make things like Witch Queen and Beyond Light and Lightfall, then I think that's probably a fair trade. You know, no one is forcing you to buy anything from Eververse. If having Eververse in the game lets Bungie make big expansion content that we all actually want to buy, I'm willing to, you know, Eververse, just let it exist. So, we've been getting, and I'm sure this trend will continue, one major expansion and then 4 seasons per year. I see no reason why that trend would not continue with Lightfall into, what's the expansion after Lightfall called? I did not think that would kill me. The Final Shape, I believe? I don't see why that trend would break. So, I think what needs to happen, and this is I'm well aware this is a way easier thing to have said than to actually be done. Bungie needs to better predict the changes that players want and preemptively implement them, rather than being on a reactionary sort of stance to, okay, you want this done, we'll work on it, but it's going to take 6 months. Now, I'm well aware that's very, very hard to do, because Bungie can't read minds. And, you know, maybe they have tried this in the past and it didn't work, and that's why they don't do it that way. Like I said, I don't run a multi-billion-dollar business, and that's what Bungie is. So someone at Bungie is clearly succeeding, because I'm sure their bank account looks a lot better than mine. My point is, there needs to be less of a sort of disconnect between Bungie developing the game and the players who play the game. Now, to Bungie's credit, they do actually fairly often tell us things that they're gonna do. Every Thursday we have This Week at Bungie. They don't obviously tell us everything, but any kind of major sort of sandbox changes or things like that, they tell us about. That's good. That's good. I don't want to knock that, because I don't want that to stop, you know? It's good to have a sort of line of communication between the players and the developers. Ooh, come out of there. The problem comes when things take so long to change. The community has complained for basically since they were introduced about champions. I'm just going to give the most sort of hot take example. Champions. Bungie this season has a modifier on the sort of seasonal activity, the playlist version of the seasonal activity, where you cannot over-level it. You will always be, I think it's 5 levels below the, whatever level you are, the activity will scale 5 levels above yours to keep difficulty. I think that's great, and I think GMs do that too. If I'm not mistaken, I was talking to Genie about it, and he said that GMs do that, or have done that for ages. I think that's great. If we can get that as a sort of difficulty thing over champions in the future, I think that would be great. I'd be all for that. Now, the problem is champions still exist. They're still in the game, and people still hate them. The thing is, Bungie has kind of contradicted themselves, because they released all the Subclass 3.0 stuff, and for the record, this is not anything that hasn't been said a million times before, but they released all the Subclass 3.0 stuff and said, we're going to work on build crafting. You want your character to have super quick grenades, you have to build for it now. You want your character to have, you know, super melee abilities, you have to build for it now. And that's great. I'm fine with that. But then we have things like champions that restrict your loadout. So if you build for melee and you have a specific gun that has, you know, swashbuckler, and I think the new perk that came out last season is called Pugilist. It gives you more melee stuff. And you need to use that gun to make your build work, but then that is a hand cannon, and there's no anti-champion hand cannon mods in the season. Well, then what do you do anytime you have to do stuff with champions, because your build falls apart? That's kind of my point. Now, Bungie trying to make the game more difficult, I'm all for it. Because the game, let's be honest, barring maybe 3 or 4 things, isn't actually that difficult. GMs, depending on the GM, and master content, and day 1 raids, maybe, are kind of the only sort of difficult content that we have in the game. Now, I know that's subjective, everyone finds different things difficult. I'm a fairly average Destiny player. Those are really the only things I find difficult. So, take that for what it is. My point is, the game itself as a whole isn't super difficult. The other issue is the core playlists feel completely disconnected from the rest of the game. Gambit, Crucible, and Vanguard playlists, unless you have a quest step that requires you to go do Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit activities, are completely disconnected from the rest of the game. I know we do Nightfalls, GM Nightfalls, Nightfall Guns, Adept versions of Nightfall Guns, that kind of thing. So they probably get a little more, and there are PvP players. I'm not saying there aren't. You know, I'm not going to dig at PvP. PvP, it seems like Bungie doesn't know if they want to have PvP or don't want to have PvP in the game. On the one hand, they just released a new sort of rank system for PvP this season. And for competitive PvP, you get a rank now, a sort of system that other games have used for years and years and years. It seems to work fine. You know, I haven't finished ranking. I started, but I didn't finish it yet. I don't know where I've ranked, but I'm not a PvPer. I'm not that great at PvP, so I'm sure I won't rank super high. But on the other side of, they've just introduced a new thing for PvP, is PvP has gone, I think the tweet was like, over 1,000 days or something with no new maps. That shouldn't happen. But to be fair, how often do we get new strikes? I know it's more than... I know it's not that egregious, but this is my point. How often do we get brand new strikes, not reissued strikes? And on that subject, why are we taking Crucible maps away and then reintroducing them 2 seasons later with no changes? Leave the Crucible maps alone. The PvPers have enough of a time getting content as it is. I know maybe some PvP maps aren't everyone's favorite, but for every person who hates, I don't know, Vostok, there's a person out there who loves it. Just leave it be. Just, these are the PvP maps we have. Don't change them. Don't, just leave them be. You want to add some? Fine. Love that. Don't take them away. The poor PvPers, man. They have so little to do as it is. Now, the PvP community is very vocal. And the PvE community is vocal too. But it seems like a lot of the more toxic stuff comes from the PvP community. Not all. I'm not trying to be exclusive or inclusive to one side or the other. Just saying that's the trend that seems to follow. Is the PvP side of the game complains about something, then the rest of the game picks up on that and runs with it. That's not always the case, but it is fairly often the case. And, that's fine. The PvP side of the game, they want their game that they play to be just as good as the Destiny that the PvE side of the game play. The PvE side of the Destiny game is way better than the PvP side. I make no bones about it. The updates are much more frequent. But they're not... I mean, we get new campaigns every major expansion and sort of new mini stories every season. So, PvE side of the game actually gets a fair bit, now that I think about it a little harder. Give us, I don't know, give us a new Crucible map every season that you don't release a dungeon, release a new Crucible map. I like I said, I'm no game dev. I wouldn't think it could be that difficult to make a PvP map. And some of them are probably going to be loved, some of them are probably going to be hated. But at least there's new stuff there. I've floated the idea to my friends, and we've kind of talked about this, about should Bungie take a year of their seasonal content and do a season of the Vanguard, a season of Crucible, a season of the Gambit, where they don't work on anything except those activities during that season. Sort of like Rainbow did a season of Health type thing, where they just took a season, they didn't introduce anything, they just fixed things. Now, Destiny and Rainbow Six are different games, and if Destiny did a season that people had to pay for, where all they did was bug fix, I don't think there's any way in the world people would... there would be riots. There's no way that the Destiny community would let Bungie do that. Now, the problem that I can see is, if this is a season, and all Bungie does is focus on Crucible, what happens if you don't play Crucible? What happens if you don't play Gambit during Season of the Gambit? Those aren't the modes you like to play. So, I'm not sure... I don't have the answers for that. My point was more along the lines of, should Bungie just take some dev time, and rather than focusing on seasonal content and story beats, fix and work on just the core playlists, making the core playlists better. Part of me thinks it would be good, part of me thinks there's no way Bungie can do that, so I don't know what to do there. I don't envy Bungie, man. They have a hard job. I sat here trying to think of points, talking points for this video, right? From both sides of the coin. Thinking of talking points from the player side of the coin, a whole lot easier than thinking of talking points from Bungie's side of the coin. So I don't know really what to do. Hang on, my wife texted me, sorry. Okay, sorry. I don't know. I think Bungie is in a lose-lose position regarding the core playlists. I don't know what they can do to them other than basically what they have been doing, which is slowly fix them over time. The problem as the player is that doesn't feel good to have to wait years and years for PvP map or a strike or God knows what the heck they're going to do with Gambit because it's an utter trash fire at this point. They've tried to fix Gambit, and the newest version of Gambit is a lot better than the old version of Gambit. But it's still not there. It's still not where the players want it, I don't think. And I don't think it will ever be where the players want it. Honestly, at this point, from the player perspective, I almost wish Bungie would just axe Gambit and use that dev time that goes into keeping up Gambit and balancing Gambit to work on other parts of the game. The problem is, there's gonna be someone out there who loves Gambit. That's their favorite thing. And if Bungie just axes it from the game, they're gonna get upset. So they probably honestly can't do that. I've made all the arguments I think I can make. I think I've made my point, hopefully, about things as a player seem a lot easier to fix than things from Destiny. Or things about Destiny from the player's point of view seem a lot easier to fix than things for Destiny from Bungie's point of view. So I'm going to move on from that point now. And I'm going to talk about specifically this season of the Seraph, I think it's called. It feels like a season. It almost feels a little... I don't know. It's hard to say because we've only had it out for like 6 days. We haven't even had a reset for this season so far, so who knows what's coming down the pipe. But from what we have of Season of the Seraph so far, it's feeling like a season. Things are a little simplified. You know, we have a 2x7 grid instead of a 3x7 grid with a couple of extra little bits that were left over. I'm not sure what that was about, but... And then we have seasonal activity as a 3-man match-made sort of thing, taking place in what is mostly the old Seraph bunkers with a couple of new areas tacked into them. I don't know. I don't know about the new seasonal activity. This season feels more egregious to me than any of the others, in my opinion, for reusing old things. I'm imagining that a lot of what would have been this season's dev time went into Lightfall. And so, you know, a lot of this season seems reused. We have, I think, 6 or 7 new guns from the seasonal playlist stuff. And then we have 4 new guns from the dungeon. And then we have a lot of reissued stuff. We have all the old Ikelos guns have been reissued for the 3rd time. Now with the ability to be crafted. And we have the old 7th Seraph guns have been reissued. Not all of them, but some of them. So, I don't know. I don't know. The dungeon, I think, was going to do a lot of the heavy lifting of this season. But the dungeon, at least for me, and I think the rest of my team that I did it with, was kind of not not bad, but not mind-blowing. It wasn't as good as Duality, which was the last dungeon we got. Duality was leagues, in my opinion, ahead of the new one, which Spire of the Watcher, I think it's called. I know we're getting the Dawning next week, and I know we're getting some kind of seasonal exotic quest on the 20th that launches with some kind of pulse rifle that seems incredibly linked into the weapon crafting system, because it's got just all kinds of things you can change in and out about it. So there is more content to come. And me and my buddies had this discussion too, where should the Destiny 2 seasonal content be time-gated, or should it just be a do it, and if you blow through it all in one day, that's your problem thing? Part of me thinks it should be do it at your pace and blow through it in one day if you want, but then you're going to be bored for the rest of the season. The problem, again, is if Bungie does that, then the entire Destiny player base, I'm willing to bet almost the entire Destiny player base, without fail, will blow through the entire seasonal content in 2 to 3 days and then complain that there's nothing for 3 months. If Bungie does it the way they do it, they can have players log in for 30 minutes to an hour each week, play the new story beat, and log back out. And I think that's what Bungie wants. So I'm not going to get into that discussion of should things be time-gated. I wish they weren't, personally. But I understand why Bungie does it. I feel like I'm kind of just rambling at this point. Just talking. Anyway, the new dungeon, that's what I was talking about. I'm not going to spoil mechanics, but everything else I'm going to probably talk about, so if you don't want spoilers, yeah, this is your warning about dungeon spoilers. So, we cleared it, my team and I cleared it on day 1 twice. We each did it on our main character and our alt characters. So, between all of our little group, I think we got all the new Tex Mechanica guns, and actually I think I got every gun barring the new bow. None of us got the bow, so I'm not going to speak about that. I mean, none of us got the full armor set, but I don't need to have the armor set to tell you. The overwhelming sentiment from everyone I've talked to is that the new Tex Mechanica armor is dope. So, whoever designed that, good job. The Tex Mechanica guns from the dungeon, they're cool. They're not... I mean, one of them is basically just a legendary version of Dead Man's Tale. Which isn't, you know, that's fine, I guess. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. The sidearm, I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this because D2 Gunsmith is down and has been, so I can't 100% check it. But I believe it is the first gun that is not a pulse rifle that can roll Desperado. So that's kind of cool and unique, and I'm going to be hunting for that to try that out. Oh, okay. The scout rifle kind of... It looks really cool. It behaves really cool. Kind of just feels like every other scout rifle to me. I'm not a scout rifle guy, usually, so maybe someone who uses scout rifles a lot more often can find a difference. I don't remember what roll I got. It wasn't great. I think it was like perpetual motion under pressure or something. Or no, mine had explosive round and something else, so I don't know. I genuinely have no idea what roll I got. My sidearm was pretty good. It had perpetual motion and headstone, I believe. because it's a stasis sidearm. So that was pretty good. I'll try that out. And then I didn't get the grenade launcher. One of my buddies did. It's sort of a weird two-shot grenade launcher. I don't think he actually used it enough to know how damage and things work with it. I'll have to talk to him about it, and maybe I'll put a little annotation on screen somewhere that's like, it's good or it's bad. And then the machine gun. I got the machine gun. The roll I got on the machine gun was crap. It's in my vault. I have not even used it, so I'm not going to speak about it. I have no idea what perks it can get. I will say, aesthetically, all the guns are pretty good. They're not bad. The problem is, at least two, there might be more, but at least two of the dungeon guns are old Season of the, or old, what was the old Rasputin season? The old 7th Seraph. Maybe it was just called 7th Seraph, I don't know. The old Rasputin season guns. I got the hand cannon and the auto. Now, I realize that was probably done for Warmind cell generation purposes, but I don't really know why, seeing as everyone that I know and have ever talked to dramatically prefers the Ikelos weapons for generating Warmind cells, which they made craftable and gave new perk pools to. For example, I have a 7th or an Ikelos SMG with Volt Shot on it, which is just insane. And that's not even a craftable. So I don't really think the 7th Seraph weapons needed to come back, personally. I guess I'm not going to complain if they want to bring old weapons back. I just wish they weren't part of the loot pool of the dungeon, because it feels like a diluted pool for no reason other than to dilute the pool. As for the dungeon itself, aesthetically, I don't know if I'm 100% sold on it. It's kind of just a big tower, and you climb up it, and then you go down it. One of the two bosses is a boss from Garden that has been reused and renamed. Probably not the best idea to whoever designs that at Bungie. I understand it fits. I'm not criticizing that. I get that it fits. But for the players, it looks lazy. And maybe, maybe Bungie's okay with that. Maybe they're just like, we just needed something to put here, so we put this here. And that's fine if that's the case, I guess. There are also only 2 bosses in the dungeon, and then there's kind of 2 little... There's a lot of platforming and 2 kind of puzzly areas in the dungeon. I don't know. It's cool. I'm glad we got a new dungeon. I don't think it met the bar set by Duality, even close. In any way. I don't think the enemy difficulty, the combat, I don't think was as good. The puzzle part of it, I don't think was as good. The aesthetic, I don't think was as good. I just don't think it met the bar that Duality set. So, it's good. The armor looks astounding. The Tex Mechanica guns, here, let me see if I can just show you. There's a scout. This is the scout. It's kind of like a Dead Man's Tale thing. I don't... This confused me at first, because this bit... I tried to point with my finger. This bit right here, on this end, kind of looks like an old-timey lever-action scope. On this end, it's attached to the gun in a weird way, and then there's a sight on top of this. I don't know what this is for. I don't know what the aesthetic was supposed to be. For a minute, I thought we had an old, like, barrel-length, old-timey rifle scope on this thing, and I thought that would be awesome. But that's not what it is, so I don't know. And then we have... I'll show you this, because, well, this isn't the updated version, but this is the auto, the 7th Seraph auto. This drops from the dungeon. The 7th Seraph hand cannon... This drops from the dungeon. There might be other guns, 7th Seraph guns that drop from the dungeon. Those are the two I've seen. And then we have the new Tex sidearm. This. I've used this thing a fair bit, the one I got. I actually really like it. So, I don't know what the block of wood in the front is for, but I like the gun. So, and aesthetically it's cool. It's got 2 barrels, and it fires 2 bursts. There is... What else is there? I know there's more. There's a machine gun. Oh, there's a grenade launcher. This is the one I didn't get. My buddy did. You know, it looks okay. There's only so much you can do with a weapon that is essentially just a tube and a trigger aesthetically. So I basically give all grenade launchers a free pass on the aesthetics department. And then machine gun is this Terminus Horizon. This is, I think, the most interesting looking one out of them all. But I think that's partly because it's just got the most real estate to work with. What would have been really cool as a concept, I think, but I mean, it basically would have came out looking like Sweet Business, would be like an old style Gatling gun for the Tex Mechanica stuff. I think that would have been really cool, but it would have basically come out looking like a legendary version of Sweet Business or Heir Apparent, so I can kind of understand why they did that. So those are the new dungeon guns. And then the armor, I don't have a way to easily show you all of the armor. A big favorite among my group actually is the Hunter Cloak. I'm not a Hunter main. One of my 2 buddies is, the other one isn't. And we all agree the Hunter Cloak is so cool. Just the way it's a cape, there's no hood, and then a cowboy hat. We all agree that it is probably the coolest looking piece of armor in the whole dungeon. So, all of them have a hat of some kind. The Titan also has a cowboy hat with a sort of very upturned brim. And then the Warlock has like a Indiana Jones hat. I don't know what type of hat this is. I've seen them. I know they exist. I just don't know what type of hat they are. But yeah. So armor is great. Ooh, I'm knocking things over on my desk. The armor is great. The guns that are actually new are cool. I just wish we didn't have 7th Seraph guns diluting the loot pool. I'm going to talk briefly about Lightfall. We have 2 trailers for it now. The new trailer that released. I'm guessing, because in like the pre-order page on Steam for Lightfall and stuff like that, they show new weapons with new models and things. But in the newest trailer, they've shown some reskinned moon guns. Bungie, if by some miracle you hear this, I'm hoping that my theory about this is right, and those are the guns from the season that will come along with Lightfall. Please don't let those be the guns from Neomuna. You are going to shoot yourself in the foot if they are. I'm just saying. The player base will be upset. You know that. Maybe you don't care. If someone from Bungie sees this, I'm just letting you know now. If they're from the season that comes along with Lightfall, that's probably a little more understandable. People are still going to be upset, I'm sorry. But it's probably more forgivable than if those are the actual guns from Neomuna. I believe it's the same as far as Lightfall's story. I believe it is the same guy who was lead on Witch Queen's story. So I have no worries there. I'm sure Bungie has made huge strides over the last bit in storytelling. I'm willing to bet they will just knock it out of the park. The world space, I'm not worried about. It looks so cool. It's so different to anything else we have had in Destiny. Everyone I've talked to seems super hyped for the world space, so I'm not worried about that. Strand concerns me. And I'm going to tell you why. As a concept, the grappling hook with Strand seems so cool. But I'm almost certain it's going to break the game somewhere in some way. I'm not even just PvP. I'm willing to bet it breaks old raids, old dungeons, anything not designed with the Strand grappling hook mechanic in mind. I'm worried about. I don't know, I didn't pay that much attention in the newest trailer, but in the old trailer, or the oldest trailer for Lightfall, the Strand grappling hook looked like it took the grenade slot. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know if that was just an internal testing thing they did. I think this was actually all the way back on the Witch Queen Vidoc. Maybe even. Like, way, way a long time ago. So, I don't know. I hope it doesn't... I hope we still have a grenade with Strand, and it's not just the grappling hook. I guess I won't complain. The guy grappling hook onto a Thunder Crash in the trailer was awesome, and I've already seen the memes of that, like, in the Destiny community. It's hilarious, and I can't wait for that to be a thing. Seeing as I play Titan 95% of the time, I can't wait to just carry my teammates across gaps and things so we don't have to do jumping puzzles. We don't really know much of anything else about Neomuna. I really hope we actually get to kill, not the Witness, I'm sure, given that the final shape is the next expansion. I'm sure we won't kill the Witness, but I'm really hoping we kill whoever the main baddie other than him in the story is. If it's Callus or friggin' Aramis, I don't care. Just don't leave us on another cliffhanger story boss, please. You know, the Destiny community does not like that. We don't know what Savathun's ghost has been up to still. And it's been a year since Witch Queen, and we still don't know what Savathun's ghost has been up to. Maybe, you know, maybe the lore guys, maybe they know. But me as just a guy playing the game, I don't know. So, don't leave us in that spot again. Ow. I think that was all I wanted to talk about. I know this video was kind of rambly. I was just kind of talking. I don't have a script or anything. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do for the channel, because I'm going to make some changes on my YouTube channel going forward. So if you just wanted my thoughts on the Destiny stuff, that's fine. As far as my YouTube channel, I've been making content on my YouTube channel the whole time with trying to have the algorithm pick it up and put it in front of people. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to just start making content with me, my friends, whoever, that I want to make, that I think is fun, and I think people will like that better even if YouTube doesn't. So that's my kind of game plan going forward. So there's probably going to be some changes in the way that things are presented and edited. I think that's actually it. So thank you for watching. I know this was a kind of a longer video, probably a rambly video. I might not even upload it, I don't know. But if I do, thank you for watching. Let me know your opinions in the comments, and I will see you guys in the future. Goodbye.